Hello and welcome to the Quadcast. I'm the founder and host, John McAlevey. This podcast, while mainly for and about folks like me who have had their lives affected by a spinal cord injury, is really for anyone who just wants to be inspired. In this space, I speak with individuals who have had life-changing injuries and accidents, and yet in spite of insurmountable odds in many cases, have gone on to do amazing things with those lives. I'm reminded of the old metaphor that when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. Well, my guests, they take those lemons and roll right over them with their wheelchairs and rollators on their journey. I'd like to thank you for lending me your ears for another session of OT and PT for the soul. So, what do you say we get this show on the road? Hi, I'm John McAlevey, and I'd like to welcome you to a special edition of the QP. And I say special because I'm being joined by none other than Maureen Pfeiffer, who this upcoming week will begin her final week working at Kessler Institute for Rehabilitation after 42 years. My goodness gracious. Let me first preface this by saying I met Maureen back in the winter of what was 1993. Yes, we were both in grammar or middle school, right, Maureen?
No, yeah, grammar, I think, yeah.
Yeah, grammar school. I had the pleasure of my inpatient OT at the time, Hillary Shackelford. I don't know if you remember Hillary from way back when. Hillary brought me downstairs and said, "John, this is where outpatient therapy is going to be, and you're going to meet a lot of great people here." And I did. I remember I had a chance to meet Karen Cameron was down there at the time, and Beth Walsh was down there, and Erica Garbarini, who's still with us at KIR, and I met Maureen Pfeiffer. And over the years, Maureen has worked with me in a lot of different phases. She's been a PT for me. She's been a swim team coach. Remember the pool, Maureen?
I sure do.
100 degrees in that thing.
Oof.
Maureen has also been a psychiatrist for me on some of my many times that I came back for tune-ups, and was going through some things and some hard times, and we had some great conversations where outside of therapy just really helped me through a lot of things. Not that I was ready to jump off the ledge or anything, but just always had broad shoulders there and big ears to listen to any of the problems that I've had. And then ultimately, Maureen's been a friend for all these years. And I'm so happy that you're joining me here. This podcast wouldn't be the same without having someone like you on it. And so, again, as you can see, my guest is Maureen Pfeiffer. And what I like to do, Maureen, with all of my shows is begin at the beginning. So if you could, tell us a little bit about where you grew up and about your childhood, your family.
Well, I was born in Detroit, Michigan, was living there till I was about 5 or 6 years old, where my parents decided that it was time to move because of the race riots going on there, and ended up in Massachusetts. At that point, that's really where I did most of my growing up, with all of my cousins and my 2 older brothers, and my mom's whole family was there, and ultimately my dad's whole family moved there. So it just turned into just a phenomenal childhood where we were running around Quincy, Massachusetts, and Wollaston, and Braintree, and Weymouth, and just having a really, really good, solid childhood. I was very, very lucky.
Yeah. How many brothers and sisters did you have?
I have 2 older brothers. They are, but one is still living in Massachusetts. The other one moved to South Carolina. And they spoiled me growing up. They beat me up a little bit too, but mostly they spoiled me, being the youngest and the only girl.
Of course they did. And Maureen, have you always been, from an early age, were you always interested in helping your fellow man, helping others, and sort of getting into the healthcare, nursing, that type of field?
Yeah, I think I was always interested in that. My dad was a doctor. Ultimately, he was one of the first physiatrists in the country working at Braintree Hospital. And my
Wow.
mom was a nurse there. And she would, well, she actually was an emergency room nurse. And then after they got married, she became his nurse when my dad graduated med school and started his own practice. And that's kind of how I ended up getting a little bit involved into the rehab center of it.
Hmm.
They got me more involved in things like from an, I'd say it was 13 or 14, I worked at a special needs camp every summer, all summer. And that was one of the most rewarding experiences in my life. And then at one point, my dad decided that I had decided I wanted to go into biochemistry. Excuse me. And my dad
Yeah.
decided that I should be an occupational therapist and left me in OT in Braintree Hospital. And I walked across the hallway to the PT department and went, that's it. And that's the story of how I became a PT.
But I had all these years we've known each other. I had no idea your father was a doctor and your mom was a nurse. So
Yeah.
it's like
And that I
sort of
was
in the
supposed to be
blood.
an OT.
And you were supposed to be an OT. Oh my gosh. Don't tell your PT friends that.
Oh, I tell them all the time. That's why I can't
Oh.
tie my shoes.
I have to tell you, I didn't know what OT was when I got, first had my accident. And for someone like me, as a central cord, they told me, John, you're going to walk. We know you're going to walk, but we're going to let you know now you're probably going to have little to no use of your uppers. And so OT almost became like, you know, more important for me because my legs were strong early on. I was 24 and I was getting around pretty good, but it was the how's John going to feed himself and brush his teeth
Absolutely.
and dress himself. And so OT really took on a whole new meaning for me. And so, yeah, that was important. So, where did you attend college? Was that something that you studied in college? Was physical therapy stuff?
I well, originally I went to school for biochemistry, and in my senior year of biochemistry, I was working at Sydney Farber Cancer Research Center,
Oh yeah.
and realized I hated it.
Mm.
And then decided that I really needed to do PT because I was doing weekends there was a PT rehab aide. And I switched over to PT at that point. However, my parents, being parents from the 70s and 80s, said, "We'll kill you if you don't finish your degree." So I
Yeah.
finished my biochemistry degree while I was going to PT school. Um,
Wow.
yeah, so
Biochemistry.
it was, yeah, yeah. Well, don't be impressed. It's not that impressive. It sounds really good.
It
Um,
does.
I the interesting part of that is I was doing my biochemistry at Simmons College and at doing weekends at Newberry College for PT. And
Wow.
ultimately in my senior year of PT, Simmons bought Newberry out and I ended up graduating from Simmons twice. Odds
You
of that
made
are
the
zero.
you made the rounds. Boy, there's a million colleges up in the Boston area. It sounds like you bumped into a whole bunch of them.
I did. I liked
Uh,
college. I liked school, so it was not
yeah.
that hard to go to different colleges, much to
Okay,
my
so
parents' horror.
so now that you've graduated, what are we thinking is the next step? Where are we going with this? And
So
and
that's a
yeah, go
good
ahead.
question.
Hmm.
My first job was at Braintree Hospital, and I worked in the traumatic head injury unit there. And I'll be honest with you, John, when you're a 23, 24-year-old person and you're treating patients that are the same age as you, it was really not the best fit for me at that point. I don't think I was mature enough to handle it. That
Yeah.
I got transferred to the amputee clinic, inpatient clinic, and loved it. And I worked there for about a year before I met Dan. And
Okay.
Dan's my downfall, how I ended up in New Jersey.
That was my next question. How does this Massachusetts girl wind up a Jersey girl? And
Well,
put a year on that. First of all, how did you meet your husband and how did you make your way to the Garden State?
in 1983, we had a surprise birthday party for my middle brother, Tom.
Okay.
And he was just getting out of the service and he asked if he could invite one of his good buddies from the service, which was Dan. And
Oh
I picked him
God.
up at the airport, and it was just one of those things where we were like, wow, we kind of like to date. So we started dating, and about 6 months into it, he said to me, he was back in Massachusetts. We would kind of, I mean, back in Jersey, we'd kind of go back and forth. And we
Hmm.
finally said, well, we have two choices here. One of us is going to move or we're going to
Right.
break up. And I
Right.
said, well, I don't have a real career here because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I said, I'll move to Jersey. And that's never looked back.
Never looked back. Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
So that's like 83, 84.
83, I moved here and we got married in 85.
Oh my gosh. What a great thing. And
Yeah.
tell us about your husband. I know he was I think he's retired now, police officer for many moons.
Yes. Well, he would already had his career going. He had been discharged from the service and was working in Passaic County, had just been offered a job in Essex County, and ultimately retired, oh gosh, I would say now 15 years ago as a deputy
Hmm.
chief and started his
Hmm.
own business. And the reason he started his own business was because I was still working full time at Kessler and he was driving me crazy. He goes, yeah, all right,
Absolutely.
I'm going to go back to work.
I'm gonna go back. Well, thank him for his service. Hopefully, I'll have
I
a
will.
chance to meet him in person someday because
You will.
I've heard about him for all these years. You know, I love to hear my friends brag about their family members, their husbands and wives, and all of that stuff. And so, you find your way to Jersey, and then what were you doing when you first got here? And then, and how soon after you moved here did KIR come across your radar?
Actually, I when I first got here, I had gone into the city and applied at Rusk, and I wanted to
Okay.
work at Rusk in the worst way. And
Yeah.
then Dan had mentioned, he goes, "Well, there's other rehab centers around here." I was working nights at some orthopedic centers because I did have a background in orthopedics also, and that was fine and dandy. And then I just kind of fell onto a website of Kessler, wandered in with my resume, and was stopped by Bonnie Evans, who
Oh
took my
gosh.
resume. Took my resume. She interviewed me on the spot, gave me a tour, and offered me a job on the spot.
On the spot.
And that was it. And I never looked back.
Oh gosh. And that was what, 85?
1984, August of
1984.
1984.
Oh my gosh, Bonnie
Yeah.
Evans. Boy, we miss Bonnie.
Oh, we sure do. She was my inspiration. She was my cheerleader.
Yeah.
She came to me and would be like, "Listen, you're going to work inpatient, outpatient, and then one day a week you're going to go to a satellite because you're going
Hmm.
to learn everything because you're green and you don't know what you want."
Right.
And she was right.
You,
Except for the pool, which I worked in until they closed it.
you know what I thought was so cool about Bonnie is that she was a PT herself. So she,
Yes.
before she moved up the ladder to sort of running the whole building to oversee everything that was going on, she knew what you all were doing down there. She knew what the patients needed, and she had just such a solid grasp of it, and she had such a great demeanor. I can remember her coming into my room when I first got there and talk to my parents. I mean, we all had that same look on our face, like, hey, can someone get us the license plate of the railroad train that just ran over our lives? And I can
Yep.
remember her putting her arm around my mom who was crying or whatever, and it was just, she just had that calming influence,
Yeah.
and so glad to have known her, and that's great that she was the one that interviewed you. Oh my
She was
goodness.
amazing. Yeah. And she was my first supervisor at Kessler.
Yeah. And so what do you recall being your first, chores there at Kessler? Were you automatically always, did you start in outpatient? Did you move to
I
inpatient, or
did.
were
I
you kind of
started
all
an
around?
outpatient. I walked in the first day, and there had been a minor car accident with two of the physical therapists there. And I walked in, and Bonnie goes, "Well, you're going to treat." I said, "What?" She goes, "You're going to
Mhm.
treat," and handed me a caseload. And they were out for, I guess, about 4 weeks. And when they came back, Bonnie goes, "Okay, now we're going to do your orientation." I said, "Why? I'm already treating. Just throw me in." Um,
Exactly.
and at that point, and I think for me, my personality, that was probably the best thing that could have happened. Because if you'd had me just wander around with someone, I might have started doubting myself a little bit.
Right.
You're 24 years old, 25. And I just had to treat, and that was it.
Hmm.
And she was just every day telling me, "You're doing a good job," even though I would go home every night and cry because I literally thought I knew when I went to start at Kessler what therapy was, and I didn't know anything. And
Right.
that was probably the most humbling thing. You
Hmm.
graduate, you work for a couple of years in another facility, you think you know what's going on,
Yeah.
and you don't know anything.
Hmm. Do you keep that in mind, Maureen? This is bringing that up. Another question. Do you keep that in mind when, over the years, when you've had students that come under your wing, that you kind of want to show them what to do, but also kind of give them a little push to give them a little, take their own risk a little bit? Not risk,
I
but that
do.
they're learn a little bit more on their own?
I do. I think that if you talk to any of my students or you talk to any of the coworkers, the young kids that come in that are brand new, they'll tell you the same thing, that I'm tough but fair, and
Hmm.
that I expect them to treat the way I treat. And
Yeah.
that means that the patient comes first, and that if you don't know the answer to a question that the patient or the family member asks you, that you ask someone else or you go home and you research it
Yeah.
because they deserve an answer.
Yeah.
And I hope that they would tell you that, even though I'm kind of tough, John. I think you
Yeah.
probably know that,
Yeah.
but I think I'm fair.
Without
And I
question.
and I learned that from Bonnie, honestly.
Hmm. How
I think
about now, over the years, I know you've worked with, you talked about when you first got out of school working with amputees and really enjoying that community. But spinal cord injuries you've worked with over the years, strokes, amputees, what are some other, I don't know if you call them communities or what would you call them?
orth, uh,
Diagnoses.
orthopedics, pediatrics.
Yeah.
Honestly, John, I've been so blessed that I've done all of it. And one of I think the most amazing things about the career that Kessler has allowed me to have is that I was able to do the two things that I love most. I absolutely loved the pool, and we had a good time in the pool.
We got to talk
Um,
about the pool.
we definitely have to talk about the pool, but
Yeah.
also to be able to find a diagnosis like spinal cord injury and to be able to go into it as a young kid, really, and that's what I
Hmm.
was,
Yeah.
and to be able to grow with the program as all the new things and new technologies and new understandings are coming out about spinal cord injury was amazing to be really in the forefront of a lot of that research. You as well as just treating it was
Yeah.
incredible. And
Hmm.
that's my love.
Hmm.
I when I found spinal cord, it was I'll treat anything. You want me to go treat anything? I can do it. I feel comfortable, but always bring me back to spinal cord.
Hmm. How different is it treating, let's say, I know you guys have busy schedules, like maybe from 9 to 10, you've got a spinal cord injury, then from maybe 10 to 11, you've got an amputee, and then from there, I mean, are they that much different when you're going in to meet with, or is it just go patient to patient?
It's really patient to patient. John, John, what it is that you need to go into the mindset of treating each patient with dignity and respect and having that conversation with them as to what their goals are and being
Right.
able to direct them if that goal's not quite attainable yet and explaining why. And I'll tell
Yeah.
you, John, I never tell a patient that if they have a goal that they can't achieve it. I say we're going to figure out a way to work towards
Yeah.
that goal.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, I remember hearing that speech from you. I remember hearing that many, many times. Yeah, it's the
uh-huh.
way to do it. You got to work in concert. It's got to be a give and take, a push and pull, and that's where the whole relationship end of it comes through. Listen, I've been around the block 100 times, and I've worked with people that, you know, I didn't necessarily get that always from, and not to say that that's good or bad, but you really need to have that simpatico relationship with a
You do.
therapist because it makes the whole situation that much easier. You look forward to getting them and saying, "Yeah, I got PT today." You're like, "Oh God, I don't want to go there." We're not working towards anything.
But John,
But
I'm the first person to come to you if you and I are not meshing. My personality is a big personality. And if
yes,
you need somebody who's a little calmer or a little bit less in your face, I'm the
yeah,
first person to recognize that even with other therapists and say, you know what?
hmm,
You deserve a therapist that you feel comfortable with. Who in this gym do you like?
right,
And that's not saying you don't like me,
right,
but who would you feel more comfortable working with? And I think the patients really appreciate that personal touch and being able to have a relationship with their physical and occupational therapist that allows
yep,
them to move forward.
yep. We
And I've been
talked.
fired a couple of times.
Yeah, right. Who hasn't, right? You have to have to have a couple of those in your back pocket.
Yep.
We talked about the pool a couple of times. Let's talk about that. I miss the pool desperately
Yeah.
because I like the fact that the pool took away sort of gravity, and it was like my body that doesn't work the way it used to now kind of does when the water is sort of buoyant, and you're buoyant in the water and you're sort of bouncing around, and aside from the fact that it was like felt like the baby pool because it was like 1,000 degrees.
It
Um,
was.
Tell me how beneficial you think pool therapy is for people, and then we can dovetail that into talking about our wonderful friend Brad, who is always in the pool with us.
Mm. I think that the pool therapy is an incredibly important activity that patients should get involved in. And, I try to recommend people going to Wise, and then there's some pool therapies that are down the shore a little bit, and some in Morristown and stuff like that. And I think it's important for the patients to do some research and find a facility where they can get into the water and they
Yeah.
can move.
Hmm.
Um, I think that the issue with the pool is that, and I hate to bring it down to money and dollars and cents, but if insurance companies won't pay for it,
I
it's
know.
expensive. You
I
you
know.
just can't afford it if you
Mm.
really want it. Um,
It's too
and
bad
that's the
because I
issue.
know there'd be a line up that bloody hill there at Kessler for people that want to be back in the pool, and it's because it was so beneficial, and you felt, and
It
and the
was.
good part about it was that you felt comfortable. I mean, we were so comfortable with you and with Brad or with Dee or whoever was in the pool with us at the time that you didn't think they were going to drop you. You go to some of these other places and you don't know whether they know what your situation is, and
Right.
so it was that you felt the comfortability comfortable with people like that.
John, the pool at Kessler was never designed for patients.
Hmm.
It was actually built when Dr. Kessler built it more for staff to
Okay.
have a place to relax. And when Kessler first went nonprofit, that's when they said, "Hey, we should really start using this as a patient pool." And
Wow.
but then as it grew, and this, as it grew, we realized that the locker rooms weren't really as
Yeah.
functional for wheelchairs, and that we had to get the new lift in. They had stairs, and it really wasn't big enough. And I think at that point, Kessler realized it was just too much to try and renovate the pool area,
Yeah. I had no
which is a
idea.
shame.
I had no idea that wasn't for patients initially. What an interest. See these things that I'm learning.
Well, and that was Bonnie again. And one of the reasons that she enjoyed that she hired me was because she knew I was a lifeguard, and she knew I had worked for years with the special needs kids, and was like, "Oh, you're exactly what we need to get the school program going." That
Yeah.
was a that was an absolute love of hers. She never wanted to go in it, but she loved
I,
the idea of
oh
it.
boy. And we talked about Brad. We'd be remiss if we
Oh,
couldn't didn't bring up our friend Brad, who was just a wonderful guy.
amazing.
I will always remember him about I think I would go in the pool maybe whatever time it was 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, and there'd be a phone call. He'd have to jump out of the pool every day, and I'd hear him on the phone with his boys, Marky and Nevi, I believe, right?
Yes, that's
Get
right.
your brother a snack, lock the front door, and start doing your homework. Just the amazing dad that he was.
He was an amazing dad, an amazing coworker. He is so sorely missed. He is.
Ah, absolutely. And you meet so many good people, not only in your life but at work, and he certainly was one of them.
Oh,
And God
amazing.
bless him. We miss him absolutely.
Mm.
How about Maureen? Over your many moons, how I know physical therapy practices and treatments have changed over these 40 some odd years. I mean, are there any things that really stick out in your mind that you think like, whoa, back in 85 we did it this way. Oh my gosh, if I were to do that now, they'd fire me or throw me out of here.
Well, you know what? I don't know, John. I think that the hands-on technologies, like my hands and my stretching and teaching you how to transfer and rolling and all of that type of thing, I don't think that has changed, other than maybe we're more streamlined at it. But the
Right.
technologies have changed. I mean, now we're talking about exoskeleton legs, and we're talking about robotic legs over a treadmill. We're talking about body weight support systems in which we assist limbs. I mean, that I think is phenomenal in allowing us to teach patients body awareness and balance and mobility, and what the future can bring. I mean, back when I first started, we didn't have patients that we could splint them up and then get them long leg braces and allow them to stand at home with their family members.
Yeah.
Um, and pretty much most people that came to us from the 80s to the mid 90s, they were pretty much complete, maybe sensory incomplete.
Yeah.
Then then the healthcare system changed, and our EMS system changed, and they were able to spare more of the spinal cord with IVs and with ice baths and with the halo technologies and stuff, so that the technologies became so much more important to be able to facilitate a better mobility for these patients
Right.
with bracing or body weight support or electric stim. I mean,
Hmm.
the first time I took a course in electric stim, I stood there looking at this machine thinking, yeah, I'm going to jail because I'm probably going to kill someone. And it turned out to be the most phenomenal thing you can do for a patient. You
Yeah.
know, it's incredible. That's the stuff that the new generation is so lucky that they have, and that our older generation, like me, honestly finds it a little bit more difficult to learn. I
Hmm.
mean, everything is now computer generated, and if my computer goes down, I just stare at it and I hand it to
Yeah.
a young kid. I'm like, you need to
Right.
fix this.
Yeah, we didn't have computers when we were growing up.
No, we had pens.
Right. And sticks to play with outside. We didn't have
Exactly. You had
iPhones
a
and all of that
stick?
stuff. Yeah. They're
You're
not
lucky.
around anymore. I think they've banned sticks.
I think so, I have too. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Maureen,
So
but
yeah.
how about balancing, working a full-time job with having the two young boys at home and your husband and your dogs over the years, and I'm sure you had those talks with your boys about being careful, right? Because mommy
Oh,
works with people who have been in car accidents, who have been diving accidents and done stupid things when they shouldn't have been doing them, and
yeah.
I bet they heard all of that through the years, right?
Yeah, and I'm pretty confident they ignored all of it because my boys were a little bit wild. And I did have to remind myself that it's okay to let kids be kids. And there's certain rules that you can't break, and if you do, you're going to be grounded. And you have
Right.
to wear a helmet, you have to
Right.
wear knee pads and shin pads, stuff
That's
like
right.
that.
Yeah.
But I did have to tell you, I raised two amazing young men, but they were wild. They were wild children. They I don't know. I think they take after their father because I'm not like that.
No, not at
No.
all.
Um, but I was lucky at Kessler in that I was able to work 7 a.m. to 3. So Dan would take the kids to school in the morning and he would work 12 to 8 or whatever he needed to. So the kids were really only in aftercare for a couple of hours in the
Cool.
afternoon, maybe an hour. So, I mean, I was really blessed in my schedule.
Yeah.
And then I fell in love with my schedule and I would never give it up. To this day, I still go in there at 6:15 and start my patients by quarter of 7.
Oh
It's a great
gosh.
schedule. Um,
Are
but
you
the
the only one
kids,
in there at that time?
well, Mary Ellen, the two old timers,
Oh, that's right. Oh
and then everyone
gosh.
else starts at 8, 9, or 10. Yeah,
Oh, these young whippersnappers, they don't
they don't
know.
know.
They don't have the work ethic that we do.
They don't. And we were taught that if you're not 15 minutes early, you're 15 minutes late. We were
Yeah.
taught that no patient should ever wait for you. And it
Hmm.
doesn't matter what time your shift ends. If that patient is still in that gym, so are you.
Yeah.
And these are the things that I try to teach the newer staff members because at the end of the day, John, I get to go home to my family. So I better make sure I give whatever I need to give 150% to those patients. And I try
Yeah.
to teach that to the newer staff too.
It reminds me, Maureen, when I was an inpatient, again, it's going back 34 years, we had, do you remember Sandy De Leon?
Oh my
She
gosh, I
was,
do.
oh, I love Sandy. She was the one that used to teach, we used to call it spinal cord class. Nowadays we call it lunch and learn, and we do, um, on the wing, we do a week's worth of lectures. The first day, Monday, is I teach. It's Introduction to Spinal Cord Injury. Then the second day, Dr. Trevor Dyson Hudson takes us through skin management and care, and then the next 2 days are bowel management, bladder management, and then on Friday, my boss Jane Mitchell does getting people to get transition to home. And what we do now is we go around, we do it at lunchtime, hence we call it lunch and learn, and we'll go by the rooms and say, so would you like to do class today? Or if you don't want to come out in person, we'll bring you an iPad, and a lot of the times the patients say, no, I'm tired. I don't want to do it. And well, back in the day, Sandy didn't ask anybody. She just
No.
dragged your, you know what, down to the to the and thank God she did, Maureen, because I still hearken back to lessons I learned all those years ago, and I try to impress on these folks. You're going to be home in a
Yes.
week or 2 weeks. Yeah, that's another thing. The length of stays. I was there for almost 6 months. Now, if you get 6 weeks, that's a lifetime. But people, there's not going to be a call bell 3 weeks from now, and the aide not going to come down and help you with your bladder issues, and so things have just changed. It's
Well, yeah, you're right, John. But I think that there's a happy medium. I think that 6 months was too long
Yeah,
because now we threw you out into the community and you were like, what is happening? You know,
exactly.
but 6 weeks, you're just starting to come out of being angry,
I
let
know.
alone, oh my gosh, I have to take care of myself. Because
Exactly.
we're finding an outpatient now that the patients are coming to us, and I hate to use the word, but sicker, so that they're still learning about skincare. They might come in with a wound now. They might come
Yeah.
in with bowel and bladder. They get a
Yeah.
UTI more frequently because they just went home too soon.
And how
It's
about the family members? They don't have the
Oh, they're in
ramps,
a
they don't have
panic.
the showers, they don't have the
Nope.
beds. It's like,
Nope.
whoa, what are we doing? And
And they're
and
just panicked. These poor family members come in with like a deer in a headlight and just stare
yeah,
at you, and you can't. It's hard to even get them to express what's going on because they don't even know how to ask the question.
yeah. I
Yeah.
it's there's got to be, as you said, there's got to be a happy medium in there. There's got to be, especially individuals who are. We have people going home with vents and trachs, and they're going home in 4 and 5 weeks, and I'm like, I don't know how you do it. I really don't. I don't envy, at least right out of the gates, them getting their sea legs under them. That's why
Yeah.
they've started the new Navigators program. I don't know if you're familiar with
Oh, it's
that.
fantastic.
Yeah, it really is something that is really getting some traction now, and I applaud them because the families, they need it sometimes more so than the patients do.
Yeah.
You
You're not
know?
wrong. And I
Yeah,
love the fact that some of the PTs, like Naomi, has gone over to it. And so she has both ends of it where she understands what they need, as well as now she understands how to get it. And
yeah,
that's where we struggle because we're like, I don't know. They'll come to us and be like, oh, I need A, B, C, and D. We'll be like, don't go anywhere. I'm going to get back to you. And thank God we have the
yeah.
Navigate program now because half the time trying to track the doctor down, and they're busy, is impossible. So that Navigate program is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's a nice
Yeah.
thing that they have now that they're introduced, and so it's getting some nice sea legs under it, and we're gonna see where it takes off. Hopefully, we can continue to build on that and help more and more people down the road. And so,
Agreed. You should get
um,
more involved in it. You'd be great with it.
I was in on the initial meetings with that, and it was I was bouncing. They would look at me like, hey, so like, what did you need? Like I was one of the few folks that was actually with an SCI, and they would always kind of look down at me, and I said, yeah, I don't think that's a good idea, or this is a good idea, and it was good to be a part of all of that, and I hope to keep my foot in the door with that. Yeah, very good
Agreed.
stuff. So, Maureen, when did you begin to think, now is the time uh, to sort of exit stage left, and ultimately, how hard was it for you to come to that decision?
John, it's the probably the second most difficult decision I've ever had to make. And it, I think really started thinking about this probably 2 years ago when I came home from Savannah from visiting Alex Page and the kids
Right.
and my two grandkids there. And I was like, I don't like that I can't get off more time to go visit them, even though I had the time. It's just that there's so much to do at Kessler, you know this.
Right. Of course.
And that's when Dan had been, well, maybe you should consider cutting back hours a little bit so you have a little bit more free time. And I wasn't quite ready to do that yet, but I think that's when the first inklings of maybe I am ready.
Hmm.
Then when Vivian was born, I went back, I went down to 3 days a week. And the 2 days that I was home with her, I was like, I'm ready. I'm really ready to commit to being a full-time grandmother and to be available to the kids when they need me because they're in a different level of their life. And I was lucky enough to have my mom and mother-in-law. And now I
Yeah.
feel like it's time for me to do this. And
Yeah.
John, honestly, some of the technologies that are coming out are for the young kids, some of the exoskeletons. I've done exoskeleton and I've done rewalk, and I find it incredibly challenging.
Yeah.
And I don't think that I was designed for that. Like, I mean, I think I panic a little bit with it, and I don't think any therapist should ever panic. Give me
Right.
a, give me a vent patient any day of the week. Don't make me put someone in robotic legs and then say let go, because I'm not letting go.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So and I think I'm just ready for the new chapter. 42 years in one place, 45 years in the field. I think it's enough, and I want to go at the top of my game. I
Yes.
don't want to go at the bottom of my game.
Yes. Yes. And now tell me about your boys. They're grown up now, and
Grown
they're
up,
they're
Danny.
having children of their own, and you're a grandma. So tell me about the boys, where they are, what they're up to, and about your grandkids also.
Alex has been discharged from the service, and they relocated into Savannah for the school system. Caleb
Okay.
and Hannah are my two grandkids there.
Hmm.
They are now, which is horrifying to say this out loud, but they're now 15 and 17.
Whoa.
Caleb's going into his senior
Whoa.
year. Yeah, it's horrifying.
Oh man.
Um, and they're just amazing, two amazing kids. And Alex and Paige are doing phenomenal down there. Alex is now looking at working for a prosecutor's office down in the Savannah area.
Great.
He's always wanted to be a police officer since the day after he was born.
Sure.
Um,
It's
and
in the
then
blood.
it's so in the blood. And then Danny was discharged from the service back in the mid 2000s, early 2000s, and was like, I don't really know what I want to do. And the gentleman across the street said, hey, I need someone to run my UPS store. So he
Great.
now is an owner of two UPS stores, part owner of one in Clifton and just bought one in Madison. And in the interim of all of this, they came to us and said that they loved living with us. So we put in a massive addition on our house, which was horrible. And then we had Vivian. So now we're all living together here, which is fantastic.
Oh, it's the
Love it.
best, right?
I'm so lucky, John. I am so lucky.
Yeah. I ran
Yeah.
into one of my neighbors is a guy that I graduated high school with, and he has four kids. His last one just graduated high school and she's going off to college. And I said, what's up with the other ones? And he said, they're all back living in the house. And he said, we love it. His wife was there. She said, we love it. The girl, she knows what she wants to do. She's got a boyfriend. She wants to move to Hoboken. She's got like her life planned out. And they're looking at me like
It's
the boy
amazing.
has no idea what the heck he wants to do.
So he's been there for a while.
Yeah, like he doesn't know what he wants to do 10 minutes from now. She's got her whole life planned out in front of her. And so they were saying, the difference between boys and girls. But yeah, it's a good thing nowadays. People are coming back into the nest, and they're at least for a little while to get their feet under them, and it's a win-win for all. And I know uh,
It is, John.
for
It's
you to
lovely to
be
have them here.
yeah, and to be able to take care of your granddaughter, I know I see your face lights up whenever you
Oh,
talk
she's
about
amazing.
her. Yeah. How about Maureen? I know this is probably a tough one. Other than we talked about Bonnie Evans and we talked about Brad, but over your years there, any other people that sort of took you under their wing, and really influenced you? And I know it's tough to. There's so many, but I don't know if and you could put four-legged ones included. I know Willie was a big influence on you, and Buffy.
Well, Willie was my, don't tell my husband, Willie was my
Willie was your
soulmate.
jam, yeah.
That dog. I think I was probably more upset about Willie going to Denver than I was Buffy, and don't tell Buffy that, because Buffy was like a daughter to me. So,
I know.
um, I feel like every supervisor that I've been with there, Irene Marchesano, Sue Ann Sisto, Carrie, Liz Caputo, Buffy, even Alicia. I feel like there's been a mutual respect back and forth, in which I think I've helped them and they've helped me.
Yeah.
And I this may sound terrible, but I consider myself incredibly lucky that I've been able to help the supervisors come through and, get to know the staff, and that I didn't have to be the supervisor, because we all have what we're good at and what we're
Yeah.
not good at. And I'm not a good supervisor.
Stay
I'm a
in your
good,
lane.
exactly. I'm good. Like I like to say, I'm a good, sergeant on the floor. I jokingly call myself, the first of staff, the chief of staff, but being the actual supervisor is just torturous.
Yeah.
And the doctors that have come and gone through there have taught me so much. This environment that Kessler fosters is none like nothing else in the world, in which you can walk across the hall and sit with speech and learn what they're doing and promote what you're doing in your gym with them, or OT, or you can go to brace clinic anytime you want to. I can't tell you how many times I've sat in with Dr. Kirschblum watching him do a procedure or doing just an initial evaluation, and really learned more
Yeah.
about my craft from that.
Hmm.
Just very lucky. I
Yeah.
wish I could pull names out for you, but it's hard.
Yeah. No, you did. You nailed a bunch of really good ones there. How about again over the years, any funny stories stick out in your brain? I know that the holidays at least down in outpatient are never going to be the same without you
Yeah.
around,
Well,
because how could they be? I mean, you certainly get into the spirit, and the matching sneakers with the shirts and belts and stuff like that. That is something that we're going to miss. But are there any funny stories that stick out or anything like that? Bloopers?
um, so John, how many times did I put you on a treadmill and throw things at you, and you
Right.
wanted to murder me?
You
Pretty
did.
funny, and we all had such a great time.
I forgot
But
about that. Yeah,
oh
the what was
yeah,
that machine? The
body weight support treadmill machine. Are you
yes.
kidding? Yeah, we
Oh,
we used to. Yeah.
you tortured me, and I remember that one we were getting towards the end. That was the delphampridine, I think, was the drug they were putting us on, or the placebo. We didn't know what we were on. And you
Right.
said, John, you're going to run. I want you to run. And oh my God, I was petrified. And you said, turn it up. You turned up the truck.
And you're
So
like,
I
I'm
had no
saying turn it up,
choice.
and you're going no, and I'm going
Exactly.
yes.
Oh, but I was able to do it. I was
We did it
petrified.
though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that was the trust that I had in folks like you and whoever was down there on my ankles at the time. But
But
it was
we weren't going to put you in harm's way.
right. No, I know.
The
I
only
know.
thing that was in danger was your sneakers, the tips of your sneakers. But
That's
other than
right. And
that,
because you always forget that you have the harness on. So if you do catch your toe and you wind up taking a spill, you're not really going to go anywhere because the harness will keep you
right,
from going head over heels.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Um,
those were crazy times. Yeah.
how about the walkathons, the 24-hour walkathons? We were exhausted, but we had such a good time. And we laughed so hard in those walkathons doing things. I mean, there was one time where we were waiting for, we would sign up clients for every like 30 minutes. And we were waiting for someone, they were running late. And when they walked in, one therapist was in the harness, and every therapist was walking on the treadmill singing a rap song.
I
Um,
remember.
it was so ridiculous,
I
and we were
remember.
thought we were hilarious.
I remember, yeah. I
That
was
was
lucky enough one year to take the last leg. I remember when I got in a little bit early, everybody said, he's here, we're ready. And I actually have some pictures, and some of the ones that you sent over are from the walkathon. Why did they do away with that? How come it's
because
gone?
be, because we don't do the research. That was all for the research. That was all for the
Oh,
research for the Dana Christopher Reeve Foundation. So now they've moved on to more of spinal stimulators, the e-stim and stuff like that. Um,
oh.
yeah, we had
That
a
was
good time.
so great, though. I mean, it was
So much fun.
camaraderie, and some of us were only there for about an hour, hour and a half. You guys were all there all night long.
We were slap happy at the end of the
Yeah,
day. I'm going to
a
tell
lot of
you,
coffee, a lot of coffee went into that,
a lot of coffee.
right?
I
Oh
also
gosh,
remember a time, John, on Halloween, when you bring up how much I do enjoy the
yeah,
holidays.
just a little bit,
Um,
little
a
bit.
little bit. I was in the pool in the afternoon, and I think you were there too.
I
And
wouldn't
one
doubt
of
it.
the
Yeah.
young men decided to jokingly go under, and I
Oh.
dove in with my hair fluorescent green from the witch, turned the pool green. Do you remember this?
I do.
Turned
Yeah.
the whole pool green, and they had to shut it down. And then the
Mhm.
board of health came in, and the pool was fluorescent green,
I
and I
remember.
got yelled at.
I think it was Joe Fabio, if I remember correctly.
Yes, it was. I didn't know if I could say his name, but it sure was. I wanted to actually drown him at that point, because it was
I'm sure you did. Yeah.
the
Oh.
only time in Kessler's history, and they still bring it up, that I ever got written up was because I turned the pool fluorescent green.
Yeah, but it wasn't my fault. I swear, I didn't mean it.
I
I
said,
had
"You
to.
want me to let him drown?"
Yeah, did you want me to let him drown? Oh gosh, yeah, that's
And then the
funny.
only other story that was, and this is a sad one, John. You're not going
Uh-huh.
to like it.
Oh
Do you
boy.
know that Mark Bryn would always do Easter egg hunts where he would hide eggs and stuff all over the place? Did you know this story?
I did not
Yeah.
know this.
So right after Easter, he would hide like 250 eggs. And being the competitive people that the
Oh
therapists,
yeah,
OT, PT, and speech are, he
sure.
would then send us out and we would go hunting for the eggs. And initially, it used to be in the building. And then
Right.
Mark realized that we were going to die. So we would make it in the building and out of the building. And one of the OTs, one of the speech therapists, Steve, locked me in a closet because I had eggs. And they found me about a half an hour later when someone goes, "Has anybody seen Maureen?" And Steve goes, "Oh my God," and let me out of the closet.
Which one? That one there in the front there, by where
Yeah.
the where that side door is?
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
I was so upset. And I could have
Uh,
won that year. I had like
of
12
course you
eggs.
could have won. You were gonna win. They know how competitive you were.
Yep. Yep.
Oh
That was,
gosh. Speaking of that side door, I can remember a time where I was in therapy and I overheard you and some of the gals talking about that you were going to a um what do you call it? Something where you had to fly somewhere for a not a not a concert, but you had to learn. What did you call those things where you would go to
conference.
learn
We were going
conference? That's what I
to
can't think of the word.
Kentucky.
Yes, and nobody said can't get there. I don't have a ride. I said, you guys need a lift? I could swing by and get you. And then I pulled up on the side door there and picked all of you guys up and took you down to Newark Airport.
I remember that so
Yeah,
well.
right? Oh
We all
gosh.
piled in your car.
Yeah, it was great.
It
There
was
was a need, and I had a car, and I could do it, and that's why we'd say it was all like family.
Yes, you're right.
Unbelievable. Well, Maureen, I have two last questions for you. I so appreciate you taking some time out of your busy Sunday, and one of them I think we kind of answered, but I'll throw it out to you again. What are you looking forward to most now that your life is going to slow down, and then how long do you think it's going to take for you to adjust to not having that alarm go off? And you're going to look at your husband and say, "Oh my God, I'm still here at 6:15, and I'm not at the gym."
Well, I'll tell you, John, I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm a little bit of a type A personality.
No.
I know it's a
No,
shock,
not
right?
you. Yeah,
I think it's going to take quite a while for me to not feel like I have to do something all the time.
I knew you were going to say
Um,
that.
yeah. So, well, we are going to get another dog at some point soon. So we're looking.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and I need that, John. I
You
like to
need it.
walk, and I love my. I loved my Jace. He was a terrible dog, but I
Absolutely.
still loved him. Um, and and then a couple of days a week I'll watch. 3 days a week I'll watch Vivian. 2 days a week I will. I'd like to learn more about. I love gardening. I'd like to do some more, maybe some courses in that.
Yeah.
That would be amazing for me to do that. I want to train the dog well. And then we still have a few things that should take me about a year around the house to finish. When I tell you we did a major construction, we just ripped the second floor off
Oh my
and
gosh. I
built a whole
remember when you
second
were going
floor.
through a whole bathroom ordeal. That was probably about 10
Yeah,
years ago. That I
yeah,
remember. I didn't know you did so you've been watching a lot of HGTV, I guess, huh?
yeah. It's been terrible. I tell people all the time. People go, "Oh, we want to do addition." I go, "Don't do it. Just move out and buy something."
Have
And
the
they just
property
laugh.
brothers come over and fix it for you.
I wish they would have. Um, I think I'm ready, John, and I always have the option to do per diem there if I want to at Kessler. But I think I'm ready to try and find other things to keep me occupied.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
That's a good
So,
answer. That's a good
yeah.
answer. And last but not least, and I don't know where you want to take this, but what do you think will be going through your mind as you take that final drive down that big hill in West Orange? And I will preface this by saying I tried as hard as I could, Maureen, to schedule for Friday at around 3:15 for that turkey to be there waiting for you at the bottom of the hill. But I couldn't find him. I can't find where he is. I don't know
You
where
know,
he
it,
is.
I have to take a side note there. That turkey was the meanest turkey I've ever seen in
Oh,
my life.
yeah.
And
I think
I
I'd be
almost rolled
mean
it
too if
over.
I had a dart sticking out of my neck. Remember
I
that?
still have yes, I still have those pictures. That's crazy. They
Yeah,
tell us that that duck that turkey went to a farm. I don't believe them. I
I
think
don't
that
either.
turkey
Yeah,
joined the good Lord upstairs,
I
or
do
I think he
too.
went down actually.
I do too. Well,
Um,
he's not going to be waiting for you at the bottom as hard as I
no,
tried. So,
mm.
what do you think might be
You know,
rolling through your head?
John, when I rolled up the hill, I do remember back in August of '84 that I was terrified because I just didn't know what the future was going to hold. I knew I was ready and I
Yeah.
knew I could do it. I just know I was terrified because Kessler's Kessler. I mean, you, I people even now go, "You work at Kessler?"
Yeah.
That type of thing. Okay, and I will tell you when I read that, when I had read the questions that you had sent me, and I got to the
Hmm.
last one, and Dan was sitting next to me, I go, "Oh, oh, this is a tough one
Yeah.
because there are so many emotions involved in this, John.
Of course.
This is home. This is
Of
something,
course.
you know, this is I. Who
You
am
grew
I?
up here in a lot of
I did,
intents
and
purposes.
I'm a
Yeah.
therapist, and that's who I am. So the answer to your question, I think, when I really thought long and hard,
Hmm.
is when I'm going down that hill, is I'm going to feel immense gratitude, gratitude to my family who allowed me to do, John, to do a job that I
Yeah.
love for 42 years. Who can say that I love? There wasn't a day that I would come home
Hmm.
that if I had a bad day, that I still didn't have a great day.
Yeah.
Okay. So gratitude to them for, for days when I would say, okay, I got to go to Kentucky this weekend. Okay. Or I got, I'm going to be late, or I got to go early, or I got to work Saturday and Sunday. That
Yeah.
they weren't like, okay, allowing me to bring the kids in so that they can see what I do. I mean, that's amazing. Gratitude that I've known so many amazing therapists and doctors and nurses
Hmm.
that are top notch, that you can't ever replicate that type of personality and that type of dedication,
Yeah.
and the hours that I was able to work so that I could balance that work life. Kids talk about that all the time. We didn't
Sure.
have to talk about it because I was allowed to do it with the hours that I work, and then also gratitude that I'm able to now move comfortably to the next level.
Hmm.
But I will never forget
Hmm.
the patience that touched my soul. You tell me, Maureen, you did so much for people. It doesn't even come close to what those patients have done for me,
Hmm.
and how much of a better person that I am for having known all of you guys is
Hmm.
unbelievable. And I'm
Yeah.
going to miss that. That I'm going to miss.
Well, on behalf of all of those folks who I'm sure if they knew, many of them probably don't know that you're leaving or they've moved or had they known there would be a conga line going up the hill to be able to thank you for all you've done for us over the years. I want you to know when I said in the beginning that you were my therapist, but you were a psychiatrist, you helped, and not just me, you do it with everybody. And so on behalf of all those people, we thank you from the bottom of
Thank
our
you, John.
hearts. We love you and
Thank you.
we wish you nothing but the best in the future. And we hope that you're not a stranger, whether it's, the per diem thing or if there's a happy hour down the road.
Oh,
We
I'll be
just
there.
have to keep some Maureen in all of our lives because you've touched us all in ways that you really don't know how important it's been to all of us again. And I just want to thank you and wish you the best in the future, my friend.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much.